Something I've noticed when talking to people in their 80s and 90s is that they never wish they'd had more stuff. They never wish for more clothes or more boxes in the basement. What they do wish for is more time with the people they love, more adventures, more moments that actually mattered. And this is a powerful reminder that the stuff we hold on to isn't what makes life meaningful. Today, I want to share the new decluttering rules, intentional strategies to let go of what doesn't matter so that you have more room for what truly does matter. If you want to make this the year you finally declutter your home, then this video is for you. This past Christmas, our oldest, who's 9, wanted a suit. He's never had one, never needed one for anything. And since he's 9 and we knew that he would grow out of it and he wasn't gonna wear it for like real life, we wanted to get something secondhand and fairly inexpensive. So we spent weeks looking at Facebook Marketplace, looking at thrift shops, trying to find something that would work for him. And we finally found the perfect suit and I couldn't wait to gift it to him. I've noticed a really popular saying in the last few years, and that is that nobody wants your old stuff. And in many situations, I totally agree. The massive oak corner cabinet that holds a TV that doesn't even exist anymore is probably not gonna be as valuable as maybe we think it is. But there are a lot of situations where people do want your old stuff. And as someone who tries to buy most things secondhand, I'm telling you that somebody does want your old stuff. Rule number 1 is that someone probably does want your old stuff. And if you are unsure of how to get these items to the right people, there are so many options. The simplest and easiest and probably most common is just to donate to a thrift shop. And I know thrift shops get a bad rep right now because there's questions about what they do with the items they can't sell, and the prices are also pretty high right now. And I totally hear and agree with both of these concerns. However, if you feel guilty donating to thrift shops, I'm here to tell you, as a shopper, I love when you donate good stuff to thrift shops. But there are also so many other options. The library for your old books, consignment shops for clothes or baby items. There's little free libraries for books. You could donate to your local shelter or your women's shelter. Your local humane society could be used for pet supplies. You could gift through your local Buy Nothing group. You could sell items online. And yes, if you're selling things on Marketplace, you obviously run into the odd weirdo. But I promise you, there are people out there who are just looking for a 3-piece suit for their 9-year-old for Christmas. And they would be so grateful if you just donated it or sold all the clutter hanging out in your basement. Next up is rule number 2, and it's perfect for anyone who is nervous about kind of losing their style, their personal style when decluttering. In 2019, Marie Kondo came out on Netflix and became super popular, and the trends went towards that whole minimalistic aesthetic, all natural colors, neutrals, sort of like that extreme simplicity. And then in 2020, the home edit came out and everything was rainbow and bright colors and acrylic bins. But these trends drive me crazy for 2 reasons. Number 1, they make us think that we need to buy something to fit this new style. Even if the style is like minimalist, there's gonna be the commercial world out there ready to sell you something to fit that style. Like, we want you to declutter, but we also want you to buy these bamboo baskets and these glass spice jars. Number 2 is that when we use these brands as like a style, as sort of a goal for decluttering and organizing, it kind of makes us feel like we need to have a new style in our home. Whereas from my perspective, decluttering and organizing is completely separate from the style of your home. So I want to remind you that you can and should keep your personal style while decluttering. If you love having purple walls and having stained glass dragonflies hanging from every window, that's amazing. Keep it up. It's not about having an empty house. It's about getting rid of the clutter so that we can focus on the things that you do love. Rule number 2 is that you don't have to be a minimalist or whatever the trend is next year or the year after. That's not the goal, and I don't think it ever was. So what is the goal then? In my eyes, it's a space that is threefold. Number 1, functional. Number 2, peaceful, a place that you can escape to, kind of from the outside world. And number 3, it allows for room for growth. So when you are decluttering and organizing, which often goes hand in hand, if you get the idea that you need to buy something new, ask yourself, will this actually make my space feel better and work better? Or do I have something I already own that I could use instead? In short, forget the trends. Don't worry about the trends. Keep the artwork that you love. Just let go of all the clutter surrounding it so we can really enjoy the artwork. The next rule is one that I struggle with and I'm just starting to incorporate into my actual real life. Every Christmas, the local high school asks me to donate a gift basket for their Christmas sharing fundraising auction. So every year I make up a cute little basket that has like little bins in it, and it has a little, maybe a turntable. And I think this year I put in like a few IKEA storage bags. And every year I feel weird donating stuff in the name of a business which focuses on owning less. But every year I feel this pressure, which I know is partially put on myself, because I want it to look cute and I want people to be attracted to it, because I want them to spend money on it, because the entire goal is to raise money. And this is just one example how we as employees or individuals or businesses or just community members have this opportunity to add more clutter into the world or not. But I do think we need to change this as a community as a whole. New decluttering rule number 2 is to reduce the clutter we put on each other, which in turn creates less clutter of the entire world and less clutter coming into our own homes. And in my experience, this is way easier said than done. But I do believe if we work together, we can make these changes. And when you start reflecting on it, there's actually so many opportunities for this. I made an entire video before Christmas with ideas for gifts that we can give each other that are less focused on the physical and more on just being very intentional. Why are we complaining about clutter in our homes, but then just adding clutter into the homes of people that we love and we know already have too much stuff? Promo materials through our jobs. If you work at a place that gives out free swag, can we make a little less, give out a little less? Can we make it something consumable? I know I worked at a corporate job for years and we had shelves and shelves of corporate swag that sat there for a really long time. Maybe instead of us buying Frisbees with a logo on it, we can put $1,000 towards doing a free barbecue for kids at the local park. Happy Meal toys, if whoever is in charge of Happy Meal toys in North America, please make it stop. Or if you work at a dentist's office, maybe you could stop giving out toys and do something differently. The amount of moms I talk to who say, I hate treat bags, it's just full of clutter, but we all keep doing it. Even I, who hates this stuff, gave out treat bags for Leo's last birthday party because I feel such a pressure to do it. Like, are we letting 6-year-olds run our world? I know expectations like this don't change overnight, but I think if we all start doing small tweaks towards it, there's going to be so much less clutter in the world and therefore less clutter in our homes. And the next rule, I think, can actually make this a little bit easier. I was watching a budgeting video a few months ago, and one of the tips was to not be on your phone as much. And I was like, yeah, I know that. I've been, decluttering for years. I've been budgeting for years. I don't get pressured by that anymore. But then over the next few weeks, as I was reflecting on it, I was thinking, wait a second, that journal I bought for Leo that was really actually outside of my budget, I only bought that because I saw someone else share that they really loved it and they had it for their son. And it was so subtle that it's I didn't even realize that I was being pressured into it. And more recently, I saw this thing about a loofah for my dry skin. And I am not even into beauty products. I'm not really passionate about skincare. I don't need an extra item in my routine. But over the last few weeks, it got to the point where in my brain, it wasn't even a want anymore. It had turned into a need. In my brain, I was thinking, I just need this. I have to have it, which is kind of crazy. In April of 1993, the internet became available to the general public, which over the course of 30 years has become a huge part of our lives. And it has so many advantages. But I would argue 2 of its maybe greatest powers is that number 1, it makes us crave new and different things. And number 2, it makes us feel like what we already own isn't good enough. Rule number 4 is to live like it's 1992, i.e. to live like the internet doesn't exist. Specifically, social media or anything that is selling products to you, which is a lot of the internet. There are a million tips and ways of staying off your phone and off social media more than you want to be on it. But there's one strategy that I've been using the last couple of years that I kind of love. It's based on the idea of making your smartphone essentially a landline. So in the extreme version, having it attached to the wall in your house. But I've heard so many other kind of tweaks and versions of this. I've read once that Chip and Joanna Gaines. What show are they from? You guys know what I'm talking about. They have a rule in their house where there's a central spot where everyone's cell phone go. So when they get home, everyone puts their phones there, and if they want to use them at home, they have to be in that spot. So you can't just go off into a corner alone, be looking at your phone for 2 hours and just scrolling the internet mindlessly. When I'm at home, my phone pretty much always lives in our kitchen drawer. And even at a more basic level, whenever I can, I just leave my phone at home. I don't need it when I'm going for a walk. I don't need it when we're out as a family and Scott has his phone. Just these small tweaks over the last couple of years has really helped me to be on my phone less and therefore on social media less. And I truly believe that less internet time equals less stuff. Okay, the next rule is my last one, and I think it's one that doesn't come up in the organizing and decluttering world a lot, but I kind of feel like it should. Every single year since I started working with in-home clients, I'm always shocked at the amount of repeat clients we get. Sometimes it's a new space that they want done, but very often it's a reset or a repurge of a space we've already worked in. And these aren't clients that are, over consumers or shopaholics. These are just average people, average families going through everyday life, where every year more stuff comes in that they have to deal with, and therefore have to re-declutter the spaces we've already done. Rule number 5 is that repeat decluttering is normal. It is normal to go back to the same spaces over and over again. Because even if we don't want to admit it, chances are more stuff is coming in every single year. And knowing that this is normal and reducing the guilt around this can help in one key way. When we feel guilt or shame about an area in our home, we almost always avoid it, sometimes for a really long time. But in a lot of cases, the longer you wait, the worse it gets, the more cluttered it gets. So we don't want to avoid these spaces just because we feel guilt or shame around them because, we just did them 6 months ago. In fact, areas that get cluttered more quickly should actually be dealt with on like a routine basis. And the perk to that is that you usually get really fast because it's often so much of the same stuff. In our living room, we have drawers where each of our kids have all their paperwork and activity books and creations. And I probably go through these every 6 or 8 weeks, sometimes more often. And I've done it so much that I could almost do it blindfolded. It's a habit, just like vacuuming or washing our floors. And honestly, I probably do more than I wash my floors, actually. There you have it. There are my 5 new decluttering rules for 2026 to help you transform your home and your life from cluttered and chaos to functional and clutter-free and somewhere that you love to be. If you are looking for more decluttering motivation, I'm gonna link my video of 26 things to declutter in 2026. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.